Hello and welcome back to this edition of Beyond the Politics. I'm Paul Martin, your host. Joining me as always, my co-host, columnist for the Belleville Intelligencer, Colin Mackay.
Thanks, Paul.
And in this special edition, focusing on the NDP in Ontario, for our first segment, we had leader Andrea Horvath, and now the person she spoke so highly of in the end of her segment, local candidate for the Bay of Quinte, Alison Kelly.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Colin. Thank you. So excited to be here.
Now, we started her segment off with this, but I wanted to give you an opportunity
Yes.
to speak on Ukraine as well, because the invasion began just about a week ago now, and it's certainly for the hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians in Ontario, and as well those who are just watching with horror what's going on. It's on everyone's mind. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on what's going on in Ukraine, and what have you been hearing in your role as a school board trustee as well?
It's devastating. It's awful. I think nobody wants to believe this is actually happening. We're seeing footage of people escaping. We're seeing footages of fathers hugging their families and saying goodbye. And you can't help not feel that this is so real. We're seeing babies being born in subways, animals being, everyone's coming together. And I think it's just awful. But seeing the courage and the bravery of the civilians who are just so proud of who they are and the country they are, standing up and fighting back against this unprovoked invasion. It's very moving. It's awful. It's not good. I think back to my grandparents. They both fought in World War II. My grandfather was stationed in Italy, my dad's father, and my mom's father was stationed in the UK. And we don't hear much about it. Right? We hear that it was awful for them. Just recently my father told me the story of his father who lied. He was underage, but he wanted to join the army. He wanted to serve. So he lied, him and his 4 brothers. He was in a situation where it was him and another soldier, and one of them had to survive. So that stayed with him forever. So I can only imagine the trauma, the long-term effects that not just those who are in Ukraine now, but those who are here who are trying to connect with their families. And all we can do is...
Well, it's different now because you also have social media now, so they're actually broadcasting these things that you were talking about. So now we're getting first-hand accounts, so that's way different than what you're talking about.
Very different, right? For my mom's father, he was one of the gunners at the back of the plane. And he died young when he was 42 of a heart attack. But what my mom has, though, is his flight book. So I haven't read it yet. My brother did. But again, that's just a little bit of a glimpse. But it's awful.
We have a lot of things we want to talk about, but you also have to deal with this in another role as a school board trustee.
Yes.
So mental health is a big concern. Certainly this
Big
has to
time.
be having an impact at schools right here in the Quinte region.
Yes, and I know that the Director of Education, Catherine McIver, did speak to this on at the last board meeting, as did Ken Dossler, the superintendent of. He does a lot of the mental health and student services and such. But it's. I think we've been dealing with mental health for a very long time. So adding this extra layer that nobody really needs right now. So it's everyone's doing the best they can, making themselves available. We have the child and youth workers, we have the social workers in the schools. We think about just the pandemic in general and how the educators have had to take on such a bigger role than just being educators. And as I mentioned, just putting not putting this on them, that's not the right word, but having this extra layer of just devastation happening to students and staff on the board is...
Well, the kids have missed a lot of time too. So that's one problem. And then also the kids are a few of them, because they get COVID, they have to stay home, and the attendance with staff isn't great, but it's simply because they're ill.
Well, and so I have 2 young kids, as Andrea mentioned, ages, they're now 9 and 7. And so they spent time at home. And it was really hard having both my children at home when there was shut down, having them, not only just having them home when I'm trying to work full time as well, but the internet. I don't know how the internet is at your house, but at my house, just yesterday, it was maybe going to rain and my internet just stopped working for about an hour. right? So for my son, I got an email one day from his teacher saying, "Is everything okay? We haven't seen your son in like a week and a half." And I had no idea. But for him, he was done. He's like, "I can't do this anymore. I miss my friends. I miss the adults in my life who care for me."
Is he happy to is he back yet?
So yes, he is back. He's happy. All his buddies are there. My daughter, she's back, loving it. So they go to Athol, South Marysburg, very small school, I think 150, if that. So it's a very small, tight community, and the educators are so fantastic, custodians, secretary, everyone. So yes, everyone's happy the kids are back in school.
So what about masking? That's going to become a big issue by the sound of it. Your kids probably, they have to wear a mask, and they get on the bus, they have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And as a trustee, do you have a position or an idea of whether, is it going to be too quick, too early?
Well, for me as a parent, so my kids have their masks. We got the N95s for them when we were returned in the new year. I myself am still a little anxious just because I reflect on how for 2 years none of us have had a cold, so clearly masking works to prevent some illnesses. So, I'm just going to keep doing what we're comfortable doing, and then just, be understanding and recognize that not everyone is where I am right now and what our family is doing. We're all trying to do our very best for our families, and so just show kindness and yeah.
We talked about that, of course, is a source of stress, two of them. Another source of stress that's been growing over the course of the pandemic is housing. Andrea mentioned briefly talking about the cost of living, but we wanted to talk to you more about that because it's a big impact issue here and much bigger than I'm sure any of us would have thought a couple of years ago. What needs to be done in the affordable housing arena, and what can the NDP do, or what could you do as an NDP representative to try to address what has become a huge concern here in the Bay of Quinte?
It is. It's such a big problem, right? I think we were talking earlier about, and I think everyone's talking about the cost of housing now. Like when I moved here to the county in 2013, we paid $375 for a 4-bedroom home.
$375,000.
Did I say $375?
Yeah.
I wish.
I'm like, give me some of that.
You're like, where'd you find that house? Sorry, 1,000. Yes. And so, my friend, she's a real estate agent. She said we could easily get 8-9 for your house. I'm like, what is happening? How is this happening? And I was just looking before I came. The Quinte District Association of Realtors, they said, so I'm sure you already know this, in January of this year, the average house in Belleville, $736,000. In Quinte West, $677,000 for, this is just your average home. And in the county, $684,000, but that goes between 700, right? And it's just rent. Your average 1-bedroom home in Belleville is currently $1,460. That's how much I pay in my mortgage, right? And I think about how many people in our community live on ODSP, Ontario Works. So what is it I was reading on ODSP? So if you're a single person and you rely on ODSP, you can, of the amounts you are given each month allocated, $495 can go towards shelter. What? Like, it's not working, right? So when you think about ODSP, it's a program that is not working, and it's leaving so many in our community just not feeling like they're cared about. It strips away their dignity. Can you imagine $497?
We just have about a minute in this segment. The election's coming up.
Yes, it
in
is.
3 months' time. So what message has to get out there? And for people here in the Quinte region who don't know Allison Kelly as well as we do now, possibly before today, what's the message that you want to get out about what you can do and what the NDP can do for people here in the Bay of Quinte?
Okay, fantastic. What can we do? We're a party who cares deeply about people and wanting to give people the respect that they deserve. We want to make things affordable. We want to give we invest. We want to invest in the future, right? We're investing in our youth. Oh my gosh, we need to invest in our youth. We invest in them, it will change their lives. It'll change our economy and let it grow. I just think, can you imagine what the Bay of Quinte would look like if you had a premier who genuinely cared about people, about healthcare, who cared about education, who cared about the climate? I think we have seen with this current government that what they care about is paying down the deficit. We're in a pandemic, and the fact that they have underspent their budget so they can say, well, we've paid down the deficit, shows us that their priorities aren't you and me and our kids and our environment. It's for them, it's about just making it look like we paid down the deficit.
We talked about, of course, we had the leader, Andrea Horvath, on for the first segment, talking about things up here, and we had you talking about things in the riding, but we haven't had time to really talk about you. So while we still have a few minutes, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your personal background, and about what you wanted to do this, and of course, also to become, as you are now, school board trustee.
Yeah, so I was born in Toronto. I am an older brother. We moved to Belleville in 1989. My dad worked at Sears Canada, so he was actually part of the opening up this Sears distribution center. So I was in grade 5, went to Harry J. Clark. My picture's still on the wall somewhere. So I grew up here, played baseball, I did dancing. My first job was at the Quinte Sports Center in the canteens. And then I moved back to Toronto to go to school and started my career there. Met my husband, who is also from Belleville, but we didn't know each other. So decided to move back here to the area in 2013 I wanted to be out of the city. I just wanted some space. We're a loud family, so I don't want to be judged by my neighbors too harshly. So we moved back here. And I worked remotely mostly. I'm a project manager by trade, and so I was working for companies out of Toronto and such. And then in 2017, 5 days before Christmas, I got laid off, and I was not happy. I was very not happy about this situation. So I decided, what do I do? Do I go back to what I've always done and get another contract, or to take this opportunity to do something different? So I went back to school and I studied community engagement, development, leadership, and for the first time in 37 years, I was introduced to the world of social justice. And I was shocked at how much I did not know, how for so long I lived in this complete bubble of privilege. And I thought life was so hard for me. I have had so ignorant in my own personal beliefs. And so through that time, I started working at a local radio station, and I decided, I was following along with provincial politics at that time, as everyone was. I was volunteering as part of Joanne Boulanger's campaign. And then I thought, I don't know if I necessarily trust who's at the board table at the schools to keep Doug Ford from torpedoing our school board. So I think I need to be there. So I ran and I was elected. I was pretty surprised, but not surprised, but surprised, you know how it is. And so for the past 3 years, I've been working alongside a very diverse group of caring adults.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. Not just your time running for this. We always encourage people to pursue lives of public service, to put their names forward, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
But also for the time that you've spent working with the Board of Education. We need people as well this fall to run for that, because those elections are also coming up.
Absolutely.
You've been watching Beyond the Politics with current trustee and NDP candidate for the Bay of Quinte, Allison Kelly, and of course we started off with NDP leader Andrea Horvath. This has been Beyond the Politics.